Hey guys, Barry Callister of Photographer's Freedom with you here again. Now, I'm breaking another promise. I know I promised you the footage of me editing the photos that I took with the ice and the water in nature photography during lockdown. But guys, I'm outside. Like, I'm down here at Woolgoolga Headland. They haven't really lifted the restrictions here. They're lifting them on Friday, but I just had to come out here and take some photos of birds. So I thought while I'm here, I'll give you a few tips and a few pointers, because I've got a few gannets flying around here, a few juvenile gannets and a few terns are fishing, and I was taking photos of them. So I'll just talk you through a little bit of the settings that I'm using and show you around the headland. So let's go, don't go away. Okay, the first tip I want to give you is about positioning. Now I'm sitting, I'll turn this around, I'll show you this big rock here. I'm sitting in behind this big rock, just down there on that ledge there. This way the birds can only see me coming from one direction. They can only see me if they're flying in from over there. So I'm kind of hidden, I'm a little bit secretive, right? And they're sort of fishing, well they were, fishing just out here in this little area of the bay here. They have actually gone a bit further out, which is bad for the reach of my lens. So try and position yourself where the birds can't see you. If you can't do that, just sit in the one spot for a while and stay still. They'll get used to you, they'll realize you're not a threat, and they'll come a bit closer. So let's talk camera settings for a minute. The first thing that I do is I set my aperture. Now I set it to f8 because I'm using my 55 to 200mm lens here on my Nikon D5200, and it's really sharp at f8, around f8, f9, somewhere around there. So I'll generally set it there. The only time I'll change it wider to like f6.3 or something like that is if I'm not getting enough light. So I set it to f8. The next thing that I set is my ISO. I start at 400, and if that can get me a shutter speed around 1000, 1500th of a second, I'm golden. It depends on what kind of thing you want. I kind of like my bird shots to have a little bit of blur in them, a little bit of motion blur, to give that sense that the bird was moving at the time you took it. So I'd go for like a 1500th of a second, and that generally does a good job for me. And then with my focus settings, what I do is, of course, I'm using autofocus, and I'm setting it for 9 point in this instance. Now that is because the birds are flying both at the horizon level, like they're flying below the horizon with the water against the background, and they're also flying in the sky, which is cloudy today. If it was clear sky and they were only flying in the sky, I would set it for 39 point. So that way it focuses only on the movement that is happening within those 39 points, because it can't focus on anything else. When you've got clouds in the background, or you've got ocean in the background, it can confuse the focus points, and it'll more likely as not, it'll focus on the ocean or the damn clouds, and you'll miss the bird. So I set it for 9 point, sometimes even single point. It depends on the size of the bird. With the terns, it's kind of better to have it at 9 point because it gives you a little bit more range. And just watch as you're focusing through your viewfinder, just watch and see when that bird turns sharp, because especially with this lens, it focuses fairly slow. So I don't click off a shot until I see the edges of that bird looking sharp. And now you're not going to get every photo sharp. That's just the name of the game. It's the way it goes. Excuse me. You'll never ever get every single photo you take sharp when you're photographing flying birds. It's just the way it goes. You know, you're moving, the birds are moving. There's a lot of movement going on there. All right, I just wanted to say a quick word about tracking the birds when you're trying to photograph them. So what you want to do is get that bird. You may have to pull your focus back a bit, so go a little bit wider so you can find the bird in the frame. Once you find it, zoom in to where you're happy, let go of your zoom. I'm using back button autofocus. Now, if you don't know what that is, I've written a blog about that, and I'll link that in the description below, so go and have a read of it. Back button autofocus is so awesome. It just helps you to focus so much easier by using a button on the back of your camera, which is why it's called back button focus. Now, so if you're using back button focus, you get that bird in the frame, zoom in, make sure the bird is in your focal point, that center focal point. If you've got your focusing point set to 9, as long as it's in that point or anywhere around there, your camera will find focus on it. And just track it, just slowly track it across and do your best. If you're trying to photograph birds hunting, like I was trying to get these gannets diving into the water, they dive really fast. You can't really get that at a shutter speed of like 1/1500th of a second. You're not going to get it. You need to go a lot faster, which means I would have had to pump my ISO up, but my D5200 is not good at high ISOs, so I didn't do that. But just lock that bird into your focal point and try and keep that focal point on it, especially if you're using single point autofocus. If you're using multiple points, 9, 21, 39, it doesn't really matter. But if you do have the ocean behind it, or a rock or trees or bushes, less focal points is better. Lock that bird in the middle, just track it. Try and keep that focal point on the bird. Do your best as you can. Elbows into your body, and you should be fine. I'm going to enjoy my time here, film a little bit more of the headland for you, and so enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, I'm Barry Callister of Barry Callister Photography and Photographer's Freedom. Get out there, man. Just get out there. Take some wicked shots, and I'll see you soon.